Welcome to Slash Bash, where today I am bringing you another Entitled Parents Reddit video. In our first story, Entitled Mother tried to take my friend's truck. Let's jump right in. Not my story, but that of a friend who authorized me to post it here when I asked him. For starters, my friend owns a blue 2005 Dodge Ram 1500. It's not the most reliable model of truck, but he's kept it in damn good shape and left it looking stock, save for some aftermarket alloy wheels. He tells me he was willed the truck from his grandfather when he passed away 7 years ago. Caleb isn't a mechanic, but learned how to do a lot of work on this truck himself. I even helped him redo the undercoating on it and buff polish the paint. This story takes place around 3 years ago. My friend tells me this was really the one and only time he's dealt with an entitled parent. He described her as looking like a teapot, short and stout. So, from this point on, the entitled mother will be referred to as Teapot. For the sake of giving him a name, my friend in this story will be referred to as Caleb. Rewind 3 years, and our story begins at a local supermarket whose name rhymes with Stallmart. Caleb always goes out of his way to try and get as close of a parking space to the store as possible, and on this day he managed to do so. He went in and did the bulk of his food shopping for the next couple of weeks, and everything seemed fine. But of course, now comes the enter Karen part of this story. Caleb was pushing his cart out when he saw an older woman trying to force open the rear door of the canopy on his truck, which is odd because you could clearly see inside that he didn't really have anything of value in it other than a few tools. She didn't seem to notice him until he was super close and said to her, "Excuse me, what are you doing?" Teapot jumped back like lightning struck, but then quickly started playing the little old lady card, though this woman was about 50 tops. She put her hand over her heart and said in an overly exaggerated way, "Oh dear, you shouldn't sneak up on people like that, young man." "Yeah, sure, what are you doing?" "I was just trying to get in my truck. I locked my keys inside by mistake and can't get in." "Lady, that's not your truck." "Yes, it is. I just got it last year." "Oh, really? Then what model year is it?" "It's, a 2010. Just look at how clean and new it looks." "No, lady, it's an '05. I know this because it's my truck." Caleb then produced the keys and pressed the button on the fob to unlock the door. He said Teapot first went white, then red with anger. It's pretty much full stereotypical Karen after this. "Listen here, you little crap, you don't deserve a truck this nice. It'd be a lot better for someone like my son. He's a local college student, you know, and he needs a nice shiny vehicle like this to get around in." "Are you loopy, lady? My truck isn't for sale, and even if it was, how much would you give me for it?" Teapot started to look smug and pulled a checkbook from her purse. "I can give you $1,500 for it right now." Caleb facepalmed so hard he said he hurt his nose. "Lady, my truck is worth several times that, and I've personally kept up with its maintenance for several years. There's no way in hell I'd take $1,500 for it. Plus, there's no way I'd hand over the title unless I was paid with cash. I don't trust checks." Teapot moved to get up in his face, which was funny because he was a full foot taller than her. She was about to speak when Caleb silenced her with a loud, "Don't even think about it, lady. My truck isn't yours for the taking. It never will be. Now, leave me alone so I can unload my groceries in peace and go home." He then did his best to try and ignore Teapot as she began screaming and saying she'd call the police. Caleb then just yelled back, "Call them then!" And she actually did. She pulled out an old flip phone and began fake crying while speaking with the person on the other end. Caleb finished loading his groceries and locked the truck because he wasn't about to drive off with police on their way. When the police arrived, Teapot actually flopped down onto the ground and started fake crying like a baby while flailing her arms and legs around and pointing at Caleb, screaming, "He knocked me to the ground and stole my truck, and then he said he'd come back later and hurt my family. Arrest him now!" The two police officers that had showed up were an older man with a mustache and a younger one that Caleb said he guessed was a rookie because the younger cop was immediately getting ready to aim his taser when the older one stopped him so they could assess the situation first. Caleb raised both hands and calmly stated that nothing Teapot said was true and that she'd been harassing him since he caught her trying to break into his truck. Teapot, while still having a tantrum on the ground, yelled, "He's lying! Arrest him!" The rookie officer spoke with Teapot while the mustached one spoke with Caleb. Since he was so close to the store, Caleb stated that he bet the security cameras picked up the whole thing. It was at that point that Teapot gave up on her act and started screaming like a banshee while running at Caleb with a small pocket knife she'd pulled from her purse. Caleb tried to back away and held his hands up, and the knife went right through his left palm, which he described to me as one of the most painful things he'd ever felt. She pulled the knife out and tried to stab him again when the rookie tackled her to the ground and tased her. Teapot flailed around and started screaming and sobbing like a baby. When she finally stopped moving, the mustached officer cuffed her while the rookie called for an ambulance. Teapot was loaded into the police cruiser kicking and screaming, "Help! Police brutality! Someone help me!" Caleb was taken to the hospital to tend to the stab wound in his hand. Turns out he was incredibly lucky as the knife had gone right between the bones and not damaged any tendons. Later in court, Teapot actually tried to plead not guilty, but the evidence against her was overwhelming and she was charged with attempted murder, attempted grand theft auto, and a few other things. The judge sentenced her to be put in a mental facility because she clearly was not well. As soon as that happened, Teapot tried to charge the judge, though she was quickly grabbed by the guards and hauled out of the courtroom. Also, during the trial, Caleb met Teapot's son. Turns out he'd gone no contact with her as soon as he was old enough to move out because she was one of the most controlling and overbearing mothers you could imagine. And ever since then, she'd been trying to show up at his apartment and bring him nice things he suspected she'd stolen just to try and get him to talk to her. Guess she figured Caleb's truck would have gotten her back in her son's good graces or something. This story is getting written now because Caleb decided to check up on Teapot by searching her name online. She is still at the mental facility, and he found out from her son through social media that she looks to likely be staying there for quite some time to come. Story number 2. Sir, this is not a Wendy's. So last week, I posted a story about an entitled mother who wanted her underage kid to drink, and all y'all wanted more of the crazy entitled parent stories from my restaurant workdays. I worked in a fairly bougie Italian restaurant in a super bougie part of the city. One of the most expensive malls in the state was across the street from us, so we got our fair share of entitled parents. This night, a family was seated in my section. Mom, Dad, hereby known as Entitled Dad, and 3 kids. The kids were a teen, a not quite teen, and an under 10. I go around taking drink orders. Everyone seems happy. I come back and take food orders. The mom and the 2 older kids have what seem to be nice, sophisticated palates. The kid ordered off the kid's menu, as one does. And then Entitled Dad spoke up. "So do you have any burgers?" At this point, the whole family sighs and starts in on him. "I'm sorry, sir, but no, we don't serve burgers here." "Well, I want a burger. What can you do for me?" Mom is muttering, "You always do this. This wouldn't have been a problem if we'd gone out for burgers. You were outvoted." The Entitled Dad said to me, "I want a burger." "Sir, we don't have burgers here." "Tough titties, get me a burger." Knowing I was about to be stiffed a tip, I spoke with my manager. My manager nods a bit and says, "Okay, what?" I put in the rest of the order, and when it was ready, lo and behold, there was a plate with the saddest burger from the McDonald's across the street. Literally, just a hamburger off the dollar menu. Nothing on it, just a bun and a hamburger. Of course, when I served it to the Entitled Dad, he blew his stack. I wasn't going to win this one. That was obvious the second he opened his mouth. I asked him if he wanted something off the menu. He wouldn't even look at me like a toddler. His kids had better manners. His family was chastising him the whole time. He didn't order anything else. I also didn't get a tip off of the family since he threw another tantrum when his wife tried to leave me some cash. As I was delivering the food for a group one table over, they handed me a $20 bill. They were laughing and said, "That was the greatest thing I've ever seen." This is John from Slash Bash. Thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed the video and want to be the first to know when the next one drops, then subscribe and make sure you click on the notifications bell. We would love for you to drop a like, share it with your friends, and we will see you in the next one.